Pastor DeVante, good to have you.
Hey, man, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's go.
So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. I want you to tell a little bit of your story.
Sure.
Like, how did you get here to Lakewood Church? Youth pastor, youth director over junior high and high school. But a great biblical teacher. You came from Dallas, you and your wife, Stephanie, and now have two gorgeous children. What was the journey getting here to Lakewood Church for you?
It wasn't easy. I think, let me just say that off the bat. Like, it wasn't easy. I think the greatest thing about that journey is getting here wasn't the finish line. I think a lot of times, like, I thought that getting here would be the finish line, or getting here was like, okay, well, God, I'm walking into my purpose now. And it's like, no, it's just a new starting line. So, to kind of make it practical and give you full context, I think when I left Dallas, at first I was on staff at the Potter's House at the church I grew up at, and spent a lot of time there. Everything that I can do, I did, from contract, serving, sneaking in as a student, like, all kinds of stuff, man. So from 9 years old up until when I left in December of 2017, that was home. I went off to Bible college. I went off to art school first, where I met Stephanie, my wife, and then I left there. I was like, hey, this ain't it. I went off to Bible college, came back to take a job at the Potter's House full time. Then when I transitioned out, I felt like God was like, hey, you've accomplished everything I wanted you to accomplish here, and leave, and I want to show you something new. Didn't have any idea what that looked like. This was 5 months before I got married. So I'm going to unemployment 5 months before I'm supposed to say I do. I would not recommend that to anybody out there, especially from a leadership perspective. Maybe not right before you get married.
Right. Yeah.
But seriously, it was God. I knew it was God because the timing didn't make sense. And every big move I've made in life, I've known it was God most because it didn't make sense when he told me to make the move. So did that. I went to corporate America, where I was working for, a few different companies, sales, and Stephanie stepped into ministry. So technically, because of the way that, like, denominations and stuff work, Stephanie was ordained as a pastor before I was.
Wow.
So little known fact out there.
Okay.
So she was a children's pastor at, Embassy City, where I was, with Pastor Tim Ross. And
shout out Tim Ross.
Yeah, that's the Godfather, So, it was beautiful. It was a great season, and God was like, no, I want you to serve her in her role. So I was not on staff at the church. I was there serving, volunteering. Literally. Now, in that moment, you have a decision to make. You could be like, man, my pride, like, God, I got experience in ministry. I've been doing this.
I was going to ask that. What was your mentality like during that season?
God told me.
Did you feel like you were in the wilderness?
I didn't at first. Because I was just so happy to be able to be behind her and say, you know what, I want to lift whatever is on your life. And that's how I am. Like, I champion people, and I would be stupid to champion everybody else out here and not do it the most for my bride. So I was like, hey, if this is where God has you, I'm serving. Like, you need me upstairs with you with the kids, let's do it. Whatever they need me to do, I'm here. You need me to just attend? Okay, let's do it.
You think God honored that?
Looking back on it now, I think he did, for sure. For sure.
Of course he did.
Yeah, of course, I think he did, for sure. Knowing what I know now.
Yes.
But it's funny because, like, you don't do it for it. You know that the reward is great, but you don't do it for the reward.
Right.
You do it for, the process of being obedient, the process of seeing a potential reward in somebody else, especially somebody as close as a spouse. So then, felt like that was coming up, man. We entertained some other roles. There were some times where I wrestled, where I was like, man, God, I feel like this is it. I feel like there's something else. We entertained some other roles, and, through relationships or, some great, like, firms and stuff that were reaching out and all that cool stuff. But ultimately, we ended up here, and that story was a Holy Spirit moment. It was pretty crazy. Literally like a 3 o'clock in the morning moment. It was like, okay. And then God rearranged some things, and we came down, and it was a good fit for both of us, where it wasn't necessarily like a, hey, I'm interviewing, it was like a, hey, are we a good fit for each other?
Yes.
And it ended up working out. And now my wife is on staff. Now, my kids were born. Right? My daughter's been born here. We moved here again another time where it didn't make sense. I interviewed for the role. My son was 11 days old.
Yep.
And we moved here, he was 2 months. So, so again, not the picture of leadership advice for transitions in life on timing, but at the same time, it was a confirmation that I was doing exactly what God wanted me to do, because I couldn't orchestrate it that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you and your heart is always to give hope to people.
Yep.
So your heart has always been, whether it's preaching the word, whether it's loving human beings, you know, you've got an incredible story of your own upbringing and just like what God's done in your life.
Yeah.
And the doors that he's opened, the talent he's given to you. I mean, that I think is clear. We can all see the anointing on your life. But I think that, you know, for me, it's really the desire to give hope to people. And your journey has not been without testing.
Right.
You've been tested quite a bit.
Right.
You've been tested, and one of the things we'll get to in a few minutes is just walking through mental health. Walking, being an advocate, but also being somebody who's been tested.
100%.
Who God has brought you through seasons where you have walked that out, and even now, like God still gives you the grace, gives you the ability. And then obviously with sitting with therapists and talking. And so talk a little bit about just living in Dallas, growing up. What was that like?
It was fun. Like I like Dallas, because Dallas, I honestly only call Dallas
Shout out
home.
D-Town, my hometown, by the way.
You know
Love
what I'm
Dallas.
saying? Like, you know, it's a great city. I only call Dallas home is because that's where my dad retired from the military.
Yes.
So that was where we finally got to stop bouncing around.
You're originally born in Chicago?
No. So I was originally born in Hawaii. Okay. My dad was stationed. So bounce around. Hawaii, San Diego, Dallas, Chicago. Yeah, so it's a lot going on.
I like it.
A lot of stuff going on.
I like it.
So that's why I called Dallas home, because I was able to graduate high school. You know, from there. So
where'd you graduate?
Townview. So 35 and 8th in Oak Cliff. Shouts out Dallas. Shouts out all the fam out there. So, man, it was a great space where I had to learn a lot, because here comes this season where now we're finally stable, right? Like we're finally like, okay, we're not moving. My parents bought a house, my dad retired, and then, you know, their relationship started to kind of drift from each other. And growing up, you know, my dad wasn't the one taking us to church. My mom was. So my dad wasn't going with us. My mom was taking us. And, you know, it was kind of like her escape, you know, kind of like her getaway to say, you know, a lot of life is not what I think or what I thought it would be, but this is the one thing that I can't control, and it's going to be consistent. So I thought that was beautiful, and if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't be who I am. So spent a lot of time involved in church, always kind of came from the old school, like, you know, being hardworking and stuff like that. I mean, as soon as I could get a job, I got one, and then I got a second one, and I was in marching band, and I was going to the church like 3 or 4 times a week to edit videos. I mean, so like I stayed busy as a kid, but in that, I dealt with a lot of mental health. So one of my best friends, when I was growing up, got into a car accident and then was basically paralyzed from the neck down. So, you know, and then he ended up passing later in life. But that made me feel lonely, because this is a kid that I mean, we're across the street. We're going everything, skate park, playing cards, basketball.
Yeah, brotherhood.
Yeah, so,
wow.
You know, so that hurt. And then, you know, dealing with a lot of the stuff that I was dealing with, like from everything from image issues to, you know, the mental health just weighing on. I remember my parents coming like, man, why don't you go outside anymore? And it was like those days had gotten dark. And this is when I was around 11 or 12. And then I remember being about 12 years old and going with my mom to a Waffle House. I'll never forget it. I tell the story often because it's a part of, you know, how I was wired. Going with my mom to a Waffle House, I remember sitting in a booth and I looked out the window to the left and she was just talking about something else and I don't even remember. But I just kind of cut her off and I came back. I said, Mommy, what does it mean when I don't want to live anymore? What does it mean when I want to kill myself? And my mom spazzed, like not out of a, you know, out of a discipline or a rebuke. It was more out of fear, you know, because here she is hearing her baby boy, her only son, you know, saying this at 12 years old and being like, she was like, boy, she kind of, you know, jumped up. Boy, don't you ever say something like that? Why would you say something like that? You know, going off. And, but what that communicated to me as a preteen was if I can't talk to my mom, I can't talk to anybody.
Oof. Yeah.
Because I don't want her to feel like that again. So it almost added insult to injury, where I was already needing help. But the language that was then is a lot different than the language and stuff that we have now. So that wasn't a big thing. I mean, you know, PTSD wasn't even categorized as a condition until the early 70s.
Yeah.
You know, health insurance didn't even cover therapy until really the pandemic. So it was like, you know, this is all fairly new around, you know, mental health. So I started dealing with that at a young age. I started dealing with like suicide ideations at a very young age, but also being very anointed.
Yeah.
Like very gifted, like, you know, kind of always been like a life of the party kind of kid, you know, communicator. And I remember praying and saying, God, if I lose my mind, it's all I got. Because I'm not an athlete. I didn't play sports. Wasn't good, you know. I said, God, if you let me lose my mind, it's all I got. You might as well take me. So those were the moments that kept me near the cross, you know. So that at a young age, and just I remember the church mothers and stuff, man, praying. Like I grew up in that era now. Yeah. I grew up in the, you know, like the big hats, you know, the white diamond perfume on the church mamas. You know what I'm saying?
White diamonds.
You know, smell like Too Strong potpourri, but man, the prayers.
The florals were coming out.
Oh, 100%. But the prayers they would pray, you know, over me, you know, I believe are what sustained me. You know, and I think that like being submitted to that at a young age is what God used to help steer me in the right direction to end up here now, you know, and not to say that Lakewood is the pinnacle, but I just mean here now as in this stage of life where I never thought I'd get married. You know, I love my 2 babies, you know, and I get the privilege to be able to give hope to the next generation and to others. So I believe it is the prayers of those mamas, you know, the prayers of those people who believed in me, the men who, you know, would help speak in and shape my life. So, you know, growing up was fun, but it got very lonely at a certain period of time.
Tell me about one person. You just mentioned the moms, the men. Tell me about one person who really invested in you.
Yeah, so I have to do 2 because Drew Castillo.
Tell me 2.
Yeah, Drew Castillo was one of the first ones. He was the youth coordinator at the time. Taught me everything I knew about youth ministry, everything I knew about broadcast. Like I started serving in the ministry behind the camera. So shooting videos, editing videos was how I started.
Where was this?
This was at the Potter's House.
Potter's House.
Yep. So he wasn't even the youth pastor then. Yeah, that's it. So he wasn't even the youth pastor then, but just kind of took me in. It's funny because like, we had this was back in the days when everything was themed. You remember this, like early 2000 days, where everything, so it was called the Firehouse, right?
Yes,
so everything in the ministry dealt with flames. So we had like Inferno Media Ministry, we had New Flame Choir, we had the Blaze Step Team, we had like, you know, so it was everything was like.
It was coordinated.
Yeah, for sure. So I signed up for the Inferno Media Ministry, and there were only 2 people that ended up signing up, and the first one quit after the first day. And it was just me and him. And that's how our relationship grew. So he invested in me, you know, poured into me for a long time. And then the other one is Tim Ross. And Tim Ross, you know, I try to always get through talking about Tim without crying because of what he's meant to me at this stage and growing into a man. He's known me since I was 13, but really just like been discipling me probably for the last 10 years now. Yeah, 10 years this month. So shouts out Tim. Thank you so much. Happy.
If anybody watching this doesn't know who Tim is, he's a little known pastor and podcaster.
Just a little bit up and coming guy, struggling.
Yes, you know? Just struggling.
Yeah.
Tim is amazing. Was the pastor, was the senior pastor of Embassy City. For several years, and then kicked it off, and in its pinnacle, in its heyday, handed it off, which is unheard of in the church world.
Yeah, it is.
But that shows the character and nature of a man who's obedient to God first over his own success.
Right.
Which I know he's invested in you, that same mentality.
Oh yeah, and it's the cheat code to life. It's the cheat code to life. You know, I think Tim has no inhibitions. Yeah. You know, and he's just like, hey, all right, God, if you said it, like we're rolling. All right, God, you want me to leave and hand off a church that's thriving, you know, and I haven't even made it a decade in as a senior pastor, with a space and a building that was gifted to us. And you know what I mean? Like all of these things, and it's like,
in what, his mid 40s? Mid late 40s, 46, 47?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Mid 40s. So it was like, okay. And it was like, okay, Lord, you said it. And wait, you want me to start a podcast? Like, isn't that already oversaturated? It's like, no, watch this. And then it was like, you got 100,000 subscribers in 6 months. No, it was like, you know, whatever that was. I mean, it's just crazy kind of favor. But Tim has always taught me to, one, be authentic, and remain true to myself, and who God has created me to be, but also just to continue to be genuine in following God. And sometimes following God does not mean, God, I want to do everything you told me to do. It's like, God, I don't want to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So it's that level of faith. But then also just the stuff that Tim has taught me as a man. Like, it's not even all deeply spiritual, but it is, because everything is spiritual. So it was like how to navigate spaces, how to navigate leadership, how to handle when you feel like opportunities are coming, how to handle when you don't feel like there's an opportunity at all.
Yeah.
He talks about the days when he had to hold doors. He talks about the days when, he would do conventions and conferences. So I've learned about how to be the exact same person on the mountaintop and in the valley when things are going great and when things aren't. So, and that has bled over into the way I parent my son, the way I parent my daughter, the way I love my wife, the way I love our students, the way I love our church community, here in person and online and abroad, like everywhere, and any speaking engagements and stuff like that. It's all been the same, of just being like, hey, what you see is what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything to hide.
Would you say your greatest achievement is just following God and being obedient to Him?
My greatest achievement, no. I wouldn't say my greatest achievement is following God and being obedient to Him, because I don't think that's something you can achieve on this side of heaven. I think I won't know that true answer until I get there and He says, well done.
Yeah.
So until the sum of the parts gets added up, I'll just be in the process.
Yeah.
But what I've actually can tangibly say I've achieved, I would say, is overcoming the obstacles that were stopping me from being obedient. That's what I would say.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what I would say. So I think, because I don't think that's an achievement thing, right? I think that's a matter of continually working the process out, right? It's just like parenting. Like, you wouldn't say you achieved being a good parent, because you're going to be a parent until you die. But I think you can say, man, I've not implemented into them some of the same issues and traumas and, hurtful behaviors and mentalities that were meant to hinder me, that were thrown at me, the arrows that were shot at me don't affect them the same way. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
You mentioned, and we talked about mental health just a little bit.
Sure.
Obviously, you felt the call to full-time ministry, to pastoral ministry. What were some of the original days? Mm-hmm. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in stepping into doing ministry full-time?
I think not seeing anybody that looked like me. It's very,
What, tall and handsome?
Yeah, well, no, seriously. I think the biggest challenge is, I remember running from the call because I didn't know what to point to say I can do that.
When you say somebody that didn't look like you, what does that mean?
So I didn't see, what I saw was 3-piece suits, hooting, hollering, like that kind of, deep, and then, I was like, that's not me.
Born and raised Pentecostal,
100%.
That Pentecostal expression.
Exactly. And I love it. That's just an accent of the same language.
It's where we were raised.
Exactly. But that wasn't me.
Right.
Somebody from New York sounds totally different than somebody from Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody from Dallas sounds totally different from somebody in Montana, but it's the same language.
Were you concerned that would be a hindrance because you didn't have the same expression of how you wanted to communicate?
Right. And I felt like I would
as a leader.
I felt like, and especially in our communities growing up, one of the worst things you can be is fake. And I felt like if I turned into that, I would be fake. So that was a challenge where it's like, God, how can I do what you're asking me to do and be authentic? I don't see an example of somebody who loves hip hop like I love hip hop, and loves fashion the way that I loved fashion, and creative expression, and and communicates well, and I loved battle rap and poetry, and you know what I'm saying? I don't see people communicate like that. But I also don't see youth. So when I got the call, when I started feeling the call, I was probably 13. So this is in 2006. So everybody I saw was definitely not 13.
Right.
You know, they were kind of the youth pastors, especially back in the buckle era, right? The early 2000s was like, you know, the crazy graphic tee, the buckle. You know what I remember? You remember?
I was a youth pastor. Yeah, you remember. I know. I shopped at the buckle.
Yeah, the blonde yes. spikes.
Yeah,
you know,
golly.
I was like, I don't see that in me. So what I learned was, let me say what I struggled with first. What I struggled with was getting over the fact that just because God told me to do something different and to change, that did not mean that I was fake.
Right.
It meant that he was asking me to be something new.
Yeah.
And fake and new are different.
Right.
Right. So,
but it means that traditionally, growing up in the charismatic Pentecostal church,
right,
it's going to be a deviation.
It is.
It's going to be different.
It is. But it's the same thing as Genesis 12, right? It's Abram.
New land.
I want you to leave your father,
your
mother, everything you know, and go to a land that I will then show you. It's not like I'm going to show you and then go there.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, God, where am I going? Start walking, and then we'll see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, it was like, where am I going? And then he start walking, and then you start seeing. So, you know, when you consider the fact that I didn't have all the details, but I had to just trust it.
Yeah.
I think that's where true faith lives. So that was a struggle, because I think faith should be a struggle, which is a whole other conversation. But I think faith should be a struggle. I don't think it should be.
It will be a struggle.
It will be a struggle, right? Like, and I think that if it feels easy all the time, I don't think you're doing it right.
Right. Right. So, there should be opposition.
Right.
There should be push and pull.
Right.
Even Jesus said, you know, John 14 and John 16, you will have trial. You will have tribulation. You will suffer.
Right.
You will face all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And it will be at times a struggle. Why?
Yeah.
Because the unknown is a struggle.
Right.
Uncertainty.
Right.
Humans don't like that.
No, we don't.
We love certainty. We like to know what's coming. So
much so that we use it as a box to put God in.
Yes.
So much so that we make an idol out of our understanding. If God, if you're telling me something that does not fit into the box of my brain,
right,
then must not be you, or I'm not doing it. So then we make an idol out of what we can understand, right? So that's where I had to get past the struggle to say, you know what? Like, this is not about what I understand, because in the kingdom, what I've learned is God will tell you to move your feet before you move your brain.
Yeah.
So
how big of a how do I say it? Not just an advocate,
sure,
but how big of a value has Stephanie been to your journey of faith, mental health, walking through healing? Because faith has been a big part of your journey of mental health.
Yes.
Because it's a practice every day.
Yes.
It's not like you've just come to a point where you're going, everything's good.
No.
It's a constant practice every single day of using and employing the tools that God has given through other human beings or through his own word. So tell me about the value that Stephanie has added to that process.
Yeah, number one, I tell people everywhere I go, I didn't marry my best friend. If you married your best friend, that's cool for you. I didn't marry my best friend, I married my hero. Stephanie has literally saved my life. Stephanie was there when I had my first serious panic attack. I mean, cold sweats, you know, seeing things, you know, and was laying there, hand on my chest, like, you know, this is at 18.
Yeah.
So she has been the stabilizing force in my life that God has used to balance somebody who has these high highs and low lows. Stephanie, as you know, is one of the most even people that you will ever meet. And I do wish wholeheartedly that people could have the same qualities as Stephanie for people who are battling with mental health. Because I feel like what she has and what God has gifted her to be and do is a cheat code, right? Like, it's I get to come to you with no judgment. Even with things you don't understand, you're not asking questions out of suspicion, you're asking questions out of curiosity. Like, the fact that she can establish a safe place wherever she is, that has helped my healing journey. And I got friends and I got other people who have walked through these things and like have pulled me aside because they're too afraid to ask, like, man, what do you do when I'm on this journey but my spouse doesn't get it? what do you do when you're on this journey? But like, and I feel these things and I think these things, but my spouse thinks that I just need to pray harder and longer and fast, or my spouse is thinking that, you know, you're just going crazy, or, you know, she's quick to refer to medicine, or, you know, any one way or the other. Not that any of those are bad. I believe in all of them. But I think there's power in the fact that Stephanie is stabilizing.
Yeah.
She keeps everything even. Not to the point that it's boring, but keeps everything even.
It's peace.
It's peace. It's a level of safety that I wish that everybody had.
Speak to the gentlemen out there right now that are not married, that will watch and hear this about a woman being your peace. Talk about that.
Easy. Her body is going to make the kids, but her mentality and her spirit has to raise them. So if you want to be in a space where you say, man, she's amazing and she looks good and she's special and she's like, bro, I just can't, bro, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Great. What else? You know, because there are going to be nights where you won't see how beautiful she is because your eyes are filled with tears.
Right.
There are going to be nights where you don't understand, you know, what that means. There's going to be nights where it's going to be, hey, I know, like, your breath smells, and, you know, you got your hair tied up, and you got on the nightgown with the holes in the top, like, you know what I mean? Like, but I just need a safe place to lay my head and cry.
Yeah.
The beauty is a plus because Stephanie is gorgeous, and you should find somebody you're attracted to.
Right.
But you also should find something or somebody that your spirit needs.
Yeah.
Somebody that's going to be able to, that you're going to look at and say, you know what? You are what I needed.
Somebody who fights to give you peace, and you fight for it to give them peace.
Exactly.
All of us lean on Jesus. That's
exactly.
clear.
Of course.
Biblically, we all lean on Jesus to be our shalom, our peace and our order.
Yep.
But to one another, we are a picture of the Godhead. We are literally a picture of the Trinity. Two become one.
Yep.
And we give each other peace in the home.
We do. We're supposed to be catalysts for change.
It's good.
We're supposed to be dropped into an environment and shifted. That's what a good woman will do.
Yeah.
That's what a good wife will do to, you know, somebody who's young and trying to figure this out. We'll say, hey, have you thought about it this way?
Yeah.
And before we puff up our chest, I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing. Like, it's like, wait, just wait. Because there are times where I believe God is like, listen, I'm speaking to you through her.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I just need to hear God. And God's like, I already talked to you.
Yeah.
You just won't listen to the voice that I gave you. You know what I mean?
He talks to me through my wife all the time.
All the time. So there's and you understand this, right?
And because you know it's him when she says it. You're like, this isn't just you.
No. Because, like, you're smart. You know what I mean? And I know you're smart.
Yeah.
But that was him, you know?
Yeah.
And as you know, because Tara's a phenomenal woman as well, and you understand what that's like to have somebody not just be attached to you, not somebody that's behind you, but somebody that's right here on your side, where you say, you know what? Even when the world can think you're Superman, even when the world can see your gift and praise you for it or rebuke you for it, you can turn to your wife and be like, you'll never be pastor to Tara.
That's right.
You will always be Jeremy.
That's right. I tried. First 6 months of our marriage, man.
Yeah.
She was like, is there ever going to be a point when you're not trying to pastor me?
Yeah.
And I realized that I was treating her just like another congregant.
Right.
Sheep in the house.
Right.
And she said, I'm your wife.
Yeah.
Jesus is shepherding both of us.
Right.
And I went, I understand what you mean by that.
Exactly.
She's like, I'm not your project to be fixed.
No.
I'm your human to be loved.
Right.
And I went, ouch.
And like I said, as the people here out there, for those that don't know Tara, like that's who she is.
Because it's hard. Yeah. Can we be honest? It's hard to take off pastor mode sometimes. You walk in the house, you still got pastor hat on.
It is.
And it is a conscious decision in ministry to take off pastor hat and put husband hat on.
Yeah.
Or friend hat.
Yeah. Well, even to broaden it, it's not just pastors.
Right.
It's the CEO who has to come in. It's the CFO who has to think of their budget as, okay, well, what are we going to do in this fiscal year? And what are we going to, and it's like, wait, I just want to go on vacation with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to take off our armor.
There's an old saying that men are to be the rocks that the waves of a woman's life crash against, but she's to be the safe harbor that he can dock in port.
Yeah.
So I think it goes both directions. for the man and the woman to say, he is to be a safe place for her waves to crash against, and she is to be a safe place for him.
Right.
That God has given. It's a gift.
Right. That's
the word in the Hebrew it's really badly translated. It's helpmeet is not a great translation. It's more of an fortifying ally is the exact Hebrew phrase.
Yeah.
That's fortifying ally.
That's great.
And so for us, I guess I would ask this question. You came to Lakewood. The unknown, didn't know anybody here, didn't know anybody on staff here, had met Nick, Pastor Nick, and interviewed through the process. And then when you got here, you had a 2-month-old, whole new life. What was that like coming on leadership here at Lakewood Church?
It was beautiful and difficult at the same time. It was, all right, God, we're in a new city, at a new church that we're not only attending, but we're serving at. My wife didn't have a job. I got a 2-month-old, and in all of this, my marriage is three years old. So it's like we're in such, as Tim Ross told me, he's like, DeVante, that would be hard to navigate if you were dealing with just one of those at a time. You're dealing with 5. So it was like, okay, I'm learning how to be a dad. We're coming off of having a miscarriage. I'm learning how to be a dad from the pandemic, moving to a new city, to a new church, in a leadership position, not just like on staff, in a leadership position with a new team, with things that have changed. Also like in the state of where things were, of trying to adjust.
A lot of change had happened.
Nobody knows how to do ministry post-pandemic. And there's no playbook anymore. There's no, hey, COVID ministry for dummies. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, and you got to try a bunch of stuff. So, there was a lot of change that we look at and we say, all right, God, I don't know, but I'm at least trying. And I always believe that God honored that, because I tell even our students, man, God can do a lot more with somebody who's willing to move than somebody who won't move at all. Because somebody who won't move at all, I can't even redirect you. You'll spin around. Somebody who's at least in motion shows me that, like, hey, you got the right tenacity, you've got the right ability, you've got the right idea. We just need to point it in the right direction.
You're about to start making me sing a New Kids on the Block song. I was about to break it. You got them right. Okay, anyways.
Hey, you show your age. Show your age right now.
I hope everybody out there 40 and up knows this song.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, if you're watching
about to go into the radio.
Yeah.
Welcome to WJRJ. So I think that you coming on staff was, number one, incredible. But I guess my question was this.
Sure.
What were one of, like, give us one or two pain points in the position of leadership at a very visible church?
Yes.
A new place. Not just coming into the congregation. Because I tell people this all the time. I'm like, never work for a church you wouldn't attend if you weren't on staff.
Right.
It's not just a job. This is a community to belong to. So tell us a little bit about, like, what was one of the major pain points that y'all experienced?
I think finding our voice, because of what we had been exposed to up to this point, right? And understanding that Lakewood is a unicorn, right? But this could apply, to make it leadership-based, this could apply to any space. You're coming into a new space. Again, it would be like you moving right now to London. And just because you both speak English does not mean you're gonna understand every single thing that they say in the way that they say it, right? They have a different level of, they have a different dialect, a different syntax, like their sentence structure, everything is different. So, it was coming in and saying, okay, how does my voice still matter while learning the language of the land, right? And I think the best thing you can do when you come into any space is shut up and learn, right? Not to the point where you don't add value, but to the point where you say, okay, this is in place for a reason. Why is this? Let's ask good questions to continue to listen. So I think, like practically walking in and saying, okay, this would work at another church or a smaller church, or because, this is Lakewood, we can't do this or we shouldn't do that. It was like, oh, it's not just like, oh, so I can't throw a kid off the stage, like into a stage dive, like, you know what I mean? Like, no, like, because we don't want to hurt somebody's leg, like, because they fall off of our stage, that's 7 feet, you know what I mean? It's a difference than, standing around, so it's a different dialect, right? It was a different culture and language. I think the other thing that I found very difficult, like a pain point, was not feeling like an imposter. And this one, I was
going to ask about that.
Yeah, that one is like, all right, God, you called me to be here. I know my qualifications, and so do you, Lord. But you were the one who told me. So, you know, when you look at those spaces and you say, you know what, God, I have to hold on to the fact that God told me to be here. God chose me. I can't do anything about being chosen. And you feel like an imposter in those spaces because it's like, okay, am I trying to change into something I'm not? Am I trying to become somebody I'm not supposed to be in order to appease or to fit or to adjust to this new language of the land? Or, you know, am I letting down everybody I grew up with because I've changed, I've adjusted, you know, because again, like I said, in the communities and stuff that I grew up in, like that's one of the worst things you can be is fake. So I had to deal with a lot of imposter syndromes. Like, God, you know how underqualified I am. And God is like, but you know how powerful my voice is.
That's good.
You know how powerful my choice is. I chose you.
I was going to ask that. You know, one of the things I love talking to people about is start before you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do I know I'm ready to get married? I'm like, you won't ever be.
No.
How do I know I'm ready to have kids? You probably won't ever be.
Nope.
Like, what's the number, right? What's the number in the bank?
Right.
What's the years of experience?
Right.
What's the job title? Like, let's be specific. Define it.
Yeah.
And most people go, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah.
Like, start before you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start a podcast.
Right.
Like,
right.
We've talked about this before. It's like, be willing to write a book nobody reads. Be willing to do a podcast nobody wants to like, be willing to do it because you believe in it and start.
Yep.
So I guess I would ask you the same question. Did you ever come to a point where you were like, I'm ready now?
No.
Have you ever gotten there?
No. No. I was like, I mean, that's gonna be the shortest answer to any question you've asked today.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, I don't think I ever was ready. Yeah. I don't think I'm ready now. What I do think I am is I've gotten really good at listening to God and just saying, all right, God, I have no idea how to navigate these waters.
Yeah.
But I think Noah's story, you know, really speaks to me a lot because God gave him all the specifications of how to build the ark, except when to finish.
Yeah.
But he said, you know what? It's not going to drop. It's not going to rain a drop until you're done. I'll be here when you're done.
Yeah.
Here's all the wood you need to use. Here's the window. Here's the animals. Here's all these specifications. He had never seen rain. So he said, all right, God, flood the earth first, and then I'll be ready if I'm still here, right? Like, I never seen rain, so I've never built a boat. Like, I didn't need to, especially one this big. I don't know if I've never ran a zoo, so I don't know how to, like, rally all these animals. But it was like, no, when you're done, however long that takes, I'll be here.
Talk to somebody out there who has struggled maybe in their own mental health.
Yeah.
But is a leader or wants to lead.
Yeah.
And they have questions.
Yeah.
Will I be effective? Even though I'm willing, do I have what it takes? I think all of us as human beings have to answer that question at some point.
Yeah.
Do I have what it takes?
Yeah.
But talk to somebody out there who has walked through a struggle maybe with mental health, and what does it take for them to engage and be willing to engage in leadership even in the face of that?
The first thing I would say to encourage their heart and give them hope is vulnerability will be your superpower, not your weakness. I think that people think that because they're exposing or pouring light onto their weaknesses, it makes them weak. That's not true. I think in leadership, people respect vulnerability. People respect people who take accountability and say, you know what, team, hey, that was on me. I made a call. It was impulsive. I was trying to chase a goal. It was overambitious, and I'm sorry. Your team will respect you more than trying to act like, oh, well, you know, this is somebody else's fault, or that's not how it works. There's Chris Voss, I love him. He's a master negotiator. And he talks about, like, you will not plant a negative into somebody's mind by addressing it up front before they say it. So
that's good.
Yeah. It's so, like, vulnerability does not cost you anything but your pride. And in leadership, when you say, man, I'm willing, but am I ready? Will I ever be ready? Do I have what it takes? You can put yourself at ease by understanding that, no, you don't. But you can do all that you can to handle as much as you can, right? Like, I think even when I look at the Bible, my cup runneth over. It wasn't that God wanted to just fill your cup. is that your cup is going to run over, right? And we can get into theology on all of that anyway, because even still, like I believe that your cup being filled in Jewish tradition meant that you could stay at the table.
Yes.
So your cup running over was God just saying, you're always welcome here. You'll never run out of your welcome. So you won't have what it takes. But if you're willing, you can continue to do it. We talk about it here all the time, and I love Pastor Joel, how he continues to break us out of putting limits on God. And I remember sharing something with some of our team earlier this morning. It's like, yeah, we're good at that with words. We're good with that in our spirit, with our faith. We're not the greatest with that with our bodies. What if God is like, I want to give you more, but you literally can't hold it?
Yeah.
What I want to give you weighs 315 pounds. You can't lift 10. What I want to give you, you don't have the physical stamina to run the race that I want to put you on. So until you get that right, then I'll meet you the rest of the way. And then the gap between what your human ability is and what God's calling is where grace fills. Because you will never be able to work yourself up to the place where it's like, all right, God, I'm ready to hit 315. It's like, no, you're not. You can do 225, but I'm going to give you the grace to make it look like you can do 315.
That's good.
So yeah.
we've got a mutual friend and a brother named Ryan Leake, who's out of Dallas. And he and I have had conversations about this before. But he talks about, as an executive coach, he told me one time, I said, what's the biggest pain point that you deal with C-suite executives, stuff like that, especially in the headquarters that are in Dallas? And he said, the one common thing, the one note that everybody gives me every single time is, my biggest fear is I'm terrified for people to find out I have no idea what I'm doing. He said it's the sweeping pain point that he deals with for people to go, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so he said, we're all out here trying stuff. Trying stuff.
Yeah.
But the point is that a lot of times we see people in positions of leadership and we think they have all the confidence in the world to say, I know exactly what I'm doing in any situation at any time. And it's just not true. Human nature is the same for all of us, that we all have questions. We all have wonderings, like, am I ready? Do I have the ability? Do I have the wisdom? Do I have all of this stuff? And the answer is none of us have all of it. Number one, that's why you have a good team. That's number one.
Exactly.
And then number two, leaning on God, especially for those of us as believers, leaning on God for wisdom, for knowledge, for understanding, as the word says in Proverbs 3 and Exodus 31, is essential for us. And so I think, like you said, even if we're not ready, when God says step out, step out.
That's it.
Or let me say it like this, when we think we're not ready.
Yeah, when we think we're not ready, because he knows. Right. I mean, most of the big Bible characters were young, right? I mean, Jeremiah was 12 or 13. David was 14.
John, the apostle, or the disciple John was, most theologians believe he was 17 years old when he was at the foot of the cross. He was the only disciple left when Jesus was crucified, and he had been walking with Jesus for 3 years, which meant he was probably an 8th or 9th grader when he started walking with Jesus.
Exactly. So, which is
wild.
It's crazy. But like when you think about the rest of the Bible, Mary, Jeremiah, I mean, like David being anointed. I mean, it's all of these were young.
Ezekiel was an old man at 30.
So, when I look at it like this, there is not a space where I feel like I'm ready now. Even in my personal life, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm ready now to be married. Like I'm good. Like I got this under control. Because by the time you think you got it right, because I believe that every problem is an interpersonal relationship problem. People change. You change. And then you're like, all right, well, let me figure out the 30-year-old version or the 40-year-old version of me. Let me figure out the 40-year-old version of Tara. You know, I just got down with the 30-year-old version of So there's a space where I think I do understand that, again, it comes back to feeling like an imposter. Right. I think people do not want to be exposed, but and they don't want to feel fake. They don't want to feel like they don't know. I mean, even in sales, they teach you all the time, like, the first 2 minutes, like you want to establish that you're sharp. You want to establish that you want to seem and make them perceive that you're an expert in your field. Like all of these things, right, that you've heard. If you spent any time in sales like me, all of these different things, right? But I do understand why people feel that from a human perspective, because I believe that humans don't want to be the reason that their relationships fail. And since they don't want to be the reason their relationships fail, they want to make sure that perfectionism is a thing that holds them together. But the problem is, perfectionism is not achievable.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a glue between our relationships that doesn't exist, right? Yeah. So it's like, hey, you know what? DeVante is always encouraging. He always knows the right things to say. He's always so wise. He's always available, on time, intentional. And it's like, wait, I don't want to drop the ball on any of those, because then Pastor Jeremy will think I'm not X, Y, or Z. You know what I'm saying? So I think it is getting over the fact that you're going to drop the ball. You might be disliked. You might lose relationships. But you say, okay, God, I'm okay with whatever today holds. Good, bad, indifferent, my preference, not my preference, and know that you ultimately have everything under control. No matter what I desire or what I thought it would look like. And I don't have to be worried about being perceived as a fake.
Right.
Because I didn't pick me.
Right.
You did.
Yeah, that's good.
And you picked me when you knew. If we're going to hold on to the Bible, right, the Bible should...
Yeah, he knew our stuff.
He knew everything.
Yeah, he knew our stuff.
He knew what we would struggle with. Yeah. It's not just who he created and what the potential we had. He knew where our pitfalls would be that would stop us from getting to that potential. Isn't that beautiful?
So I want to ask this question.
Sure.
I know this is a really consistent question that I hear a lot of times in podcasts and other recordings and interviews and stuff. Okay. People always ask, if you could go back and change anything, would you?
I have a problem with that question, because I feel like
I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming.
Because, man, people be lying, man. That's what it really is. Like, people are like, oh, you know what? I wouldn't want to go back and change anything, because everything that I went through.
I know. That's why I'm asking you the question. I know that.
Stop. I know.
That's why I'm asking you the question.
The human side. Like, if we're going to be honest, again, being authentic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I would go back and change. There's a lot of apologies.
How many people have I heard that I would go back and change?
And I was just about to say, like, how many people do
that God wasn't like, here, I ordained you to hurt people.
Yeah,
like,
no, because there are people right now to this day that, like, I wish I could go back and apologize for, that I won't get the opportunity to. Right. There are people that, like, I wish that that they didn't have to learn a lesson in life at the expense of their heart because of me.
Yeah.
Why would I not want to go back and change that? There are things that I wish I would have acted on God's word earlier, because I would be curious. Now, everything made me who I am today, but what if I was obedient the first time? Where would I be now?
Yeah.
Would I be further? Would I have better? Would I have more influence? Would I have impacted more people? What if God gave me those options? Because I do believe God doesn't always just tell you what to do. I believe God gives you options.
That's right.
What if I would have chosen another option? So if I could go back, the curious guy in me, I'd want to go back and just see where the other road takes. Like, where does that end up, Lord?
Yeah.
Just for the ride, just to say, you know what, God, I am so in awe of how intentional and strategic you are, that I would go back, same skin I'm in, same wife, same kids, and take another road just to see how good you are on a different way.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's 100%. I go back and change a lot, just to satisfy a level of, God, what else?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Of all the things that were invested in you, of all the people that took time, of all the lessons you've learned over this short life, you're a young man.
Yeah.
One thing you want to pass on to anybody listening?
I would say, man, there's so many. I would say take your time. Most of our mistakes happen when we rush. I don't know too many people that have gotten into car accidents for two people going too slow. Take your time. What God has ordained for you will not miss you. And you would rather take your time, and then again, have the answers like we just talked about, of like, I kind of saw a little bit where that road led, and, I'm a young individual, right? I'm a college student, you changed your major. Oh yeah, that wasn't it. And versus saying, no, I got to do this, and I got to take all of these classes, and I got to double major, and I got to and then you look up and you say, man, where did the time go? Because I don't think we say it all the time, but I don't think people feel it until they get, older. Like, as of how valuable time is, because it literally...
I do know what it's like to be older.
Yeah, right. That's why I said that to you, by the way. I'm just saying. No, I knew you would get it. No, but good. Seriously, I think time, because time is the one thing you don't get back.
Yeah.
Right. The clock, God doesn't stop that clock. now you can waste a lot of it. You can spend 40 years doing something that should have took you 40 days, but that didn't mean the clock stopped. So I would just say, take your time, measure twice, cut once, you know what I mean? Just be sure. And then after you take your time, after you measure twice, make sure that you cut quickly. So measure, all right, was that right? Measure, all right, no, that's right, cut. Like, we're not gonna, okay, well, maybe let me just find the scissors. Do I need to measure?
Yeah.
No, after you've done being deliberate with making sure that the strategy, the decision is right, make the decision. And then I would say, and then pray for those decisions. One thing that I pray is, God, give me the wisdom to know what to do. Give me the power to know how to do it, or power to be able to do it, and the discipline to keep on doing it. And you'll be right in the middle of his will all the time.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, thank you. I love you, bro.
Love you.